return on income that it believes is necessary in order to keep the unit open. While we recognize.
Good evening. Delighted to be here before the Board of Public Utilities this evening. My name is Norris McDonald, and I'm founder and president of the African American Environmentalist Association. We were formed in 1985. We were also the first environmental organization to publicly support nuclear power starting in 2001. We supported the legislation that established the ZEC program, and we were delighted to do so. I'm just glad to be here today. I'm excited that legislation has been passed, that then we get to the regulatory process, which gets to the real meat of the issue, especially when it comes to vulnerable communities. Nuclear power plants for me are like, I guess, inhalers. I'm a chronic acute asthmatic. I've almost died twice from asthma attacks. I've been intubated twice. So I take the issue very, very seriously. And I'm sure everybody here, if you don't have asthma, you have a relative who's experienced asthma. You have seen an asthma attack. So that is most of the reason I'm here today. But usually with nuclear power plants, it's not just the smog component that stimulates asthma attacks, but it's also global warming aspects as well. That's why we came out in support of nuclear power in 2001, because of these two basic benefits. No smog forming gases and no greenhouse gases. The ZEC program has plenty of mitigating items in it, and I won't go through all of them. By the way, we have a full 16-page written statement here that we'll submit for the record, and I won't try to go through all that here today, but I'll try to summarize as briefly as possible. But some of the highlights are the monetary recognition for nuclear power's environmental and fuel diversity attributes that was mentioned earlier by the previous speaker. The financial protections, we like that component, of course. A reasonable fee for the Board of Public Utilities, we like that. And a number of other items are in there as well. But when it comes to air pollution in New Jersey, I mean, let's get right to the meat of the matter. The American Lung Association issued a report called The State of Air 2017. And 11 of New Jersey counties got an F in terms of their air quality in that report. And that is disturbing. And what we decided to do was examine those counties. And so we looked at the demographics of the counties to establish disproportionate impacts. And everybody is familiar with environmental justice now. And environmental justice is basically the equal treatment of all people regarding environmental issues. Environmental injustice is the mistreatment of people regarding environmental issues. But when it comes to air, I didn't create the situation, you didn't create the situation, but in virtually every city in the United States, there is a black side of town and there's a white side of town. So there are differing environmental impacts in that regard. In regard specifically to New Jersey and some of the cities here, for instance, New Jersey is 15% African American, Newark is 49%, Trenton 51%, Camden 53%, and there's a disproportionate number of asthma emergency room visits, asthma hospitalizations, asthma deaths. Well, the reason we've always liked nuclear power, and there are a number of air experts in the room today, is the air issue is a very complex issue, especially when you get into the federal laws that come down to the state level. Extremely complex issue, and so nuclear power plants cut through all of that just by the technology itself. That's why we love the technology. Because they do not emit, they help fix the problem. And I'll get into a little bit of that later. But we also, in our report, went through the demographics of the 11 counties that got an F grade from the American Lung Association and established the percentages of emergency room visits, hospitalizations, and deaths by these counties, and minority communities exceeded white communities by at least 2 or 3 or 4 times in every single county that had a failing grade, and that's where the environmental injustice component comes in. And that's why it's so important to have this process and the application process and the ZEC program. So when you get a chance, if this information is there, you should go through it. Now, one component that we are really interested in is SIP program, the State Implementation Plan. State Implementation Plan is really complex. Every metropolitan area in the United States is in violation of the Clean Air Act when it comes to ozone. Within the SIP program, nuclear power plants did not receive credits and do not receive credits within that program. And they should, and they have, and that's something within the application process that you should look into in terms of some sort of acknowledging in the SIP the great benefits of the emission-free nature of nuclear power plants. That's a major benefit of the legislation that's passed, and now the regulations that are being promulgated or being established here via this hearing. Excuse me. Now, also, the governor signed an executive order on environmental justice this year. So we have two great things. We have the ZEC program, which was passed this year. We have an environmental executive order. Well, an environmental executive order, and Bill Clinton signed one at the federal level way back in 1994. And so executive orders do not really have teeth. There isn't a state environmental justice law that protects minority communities from the disproportionate air impacts I mentioned earlier. So the executive order will not necessarily protect the communities, but the ZEC program will. I mean, just by the nature of the technology of nuclear power. It goes directly to the source. So within the application process, there also should be some consideration of the environmental justice component, and that should also be linked to the state implementation plan components. Those two, the state implementation plan and the environmental justice component, should be should look at as part of the application process. Also, there is the fact that eligibility, as long as the state is in non-compliance of the Clean Air Act for ozone, nuclear power plants should be eligible to participate and benefit from the ZEC program. So, with all of that in mind, delighted to be here. So glad the ZEC program was passed at the legislative level. And now that it's being established with the application process here, we support it and we look forward to the implementation of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.